Bruce Bolin runs Pudding Stone Recording Studio at 15th and C in downtown Sacramento. I caught up with him in March 2012 to find out what it was like to be playing in bands in Sacramento since the 1960s.
And you've been here for quite a while, right?
7 years in this location.
That's awesome. So you record a lot of local talent here in Sacramento.
A lot of local talent, although last week I was recording two people that were from Bangkok, India.
And you're in a band, a cover band here in town, the Sly Fox Band?
Sly Fox.
What kind of covers do you do?
We do a lot of classic rock and country and some new stuff. I mean, we do Adele tunes, and we're,
And you write music.
Write a lot. I've been writing with my drummer, Greg Ayala, for 6 years, and we've got, we're on our 5th CD.
Bruce, you were around in Sacramento. You grew up in Sacramento and then went to Germany for a while and came back at the height of Beatlemania, or right as it was unfolding in '64. Tell us about the local music scene throughout the '60s.
Boy, the 60s was a great time. At that time in Sacramento, you could go out any night of the week and you had at least 40 to 50 nightclubs at your disposal, all that had live bands in them. Some of the smaller clubs would have bands just on the weekends, but many of the bands had music 6 nights a week. So as a musician, it was like you're almost never out of work. It was, if you were any good at all, and there was so many bands and so many places for bands to play, and I think the number of bands is generally determined by the number of places there are to play, just like any kind of job, But
could people actually make a living at rock and roll back then?
Oh man, I did. I raised a family, bought a house, had a car, had 2 dogs and a cat.
By playing every night or weekends?
No, it wasn't just weekends. It was always 5 to 6 nights. The big places were like on Fulton Avenue. There was the Tropicana. Right across the street was a place called the Melody Room. I mean, people would just go to one club, and when the band would go on break, they'd step across the street and go to the Melody Room. And unfortunately, that place burned down a few years later in the later '60s. There was just places everywhere, and it was not unheard of to go in and see a band that had 5 or 6 pieces. And during the '60s, although the Beatles were really going on, that was also a big time for soul music. So a lot of the bands would have at least 2 horns, a trumpet and a sax, and sometimes they'd have 3 horns, trumpet, sax, and trombone. And then they'd have a rhythm section, and that would usually consist of a 4-piece band. Guitar, bass, drums, and keyboards, plus the horns.
Where would you say the local music scene was centered? Was it like downtown, Old Sac, or what part of town?
I'd say it was Fulton Avenue. There was a lot on that, but you could go out on Franklin Boulevard and go to any of like 5 or 6 Mexican clubs that were playing a lot of Mexican music right out by Campbell's Soup. It was everywhere. I mean, bars really used entertainment as a draw to bring people into the clubs to sell their wares.
Was it easy to start a band and start making money right away?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I did. And that's all I did. I did for 28 years. I played music, and that's all I did. Plus, on the side, I was always recording. I always had Pudding Stone Recording, which was my sideline. Recording. I started out recording myself, and then I started recording my band, and then later on, I bought a house down in Curtis Park and had a full basement, built a nice studio in there, and I was doing my band there all the time. But then other people heard about me, and they would come in, and I would record their bands. And
what were your bands in the '60s that you were associated with?
Well, the bands that I was part of, but not leading, was like Toby Troy and the Tradesmen was one band. I played with Jim Duvall and the Gauchos, who had a big hit in the '60s. Hey, Mau Mau, keep your big mouth shut. That was a biggie for him. And then so many small little bands that didn't really do anything. And then in '69, I went to San Francisco and played with a group down there. And when the Topless thing was raging, and that was a crazy place to be at that time. Playing 6 nights a week, 6 sets a night, the same music. It was nuts, but it was fun.